welcome back to a very special Toy Tuesday with Talent. I'm Talent, the Eccentric Collector, and today we're going to be covering the Onslaught Build-A-Figure. Let's get into it. Cerebro activate.
Cerebro online.
Pull up file Onslaught 2016.
Accessing file Onslaught 2016. Onslaught. First appearance. X-Men Volume 2 Number 53, May 1996. Created by Scott Lobdell, Mark Waid, Andy Kubert.
Onslaught is perhaps one of my all-time favorite X-Men villains, and that's probably in part because that was the peak of my X-Men comic book collecting. Onslaught is a sentient psionic entity created from the consciousness of Professor Xavier and Magneto. During a battle between the X-Men and Magneto and the Alkalites, Magneto used his power to rip the adamantium from Wolverine's skeleton. It caused such extensive injuries that his healing factor was exhausted. Xavier became so angry and unhinged over the brutality of Magneto's assault against Wolverine that he used his telepathic powers to shut down Magneto's mind and render him catatonic. During the psionic contact, Magneto's anger, grief, and lust of vengeance entered Xavier's consciousness. Much like when Rogue absorbs somebody's powers, she also gets a little piece of their consciousness. The same thing happened here. So Magneto's consciousness mingled with Xavier's and ended up creating Onslaught. The psionic entity became sentient, but also remained dormant. At one point, after manifesting itself into a physical being, Onslaught offers Juggernaut a chance to join him. When Juggernaut denies him, Onslaught uses his powers to mentally block Juggernaut from remembering his true identity and magnetically flings him from Vancouver to New Jersey. When the X-Men find him, Juggernaut was only able to tell the X-Men one word, the name of his attacker, Onslaught. Some time passes before the X-Men find out the true identity of Onslaught, the very traitor that Bishop had come back in time to stop. Turns out it was Xavier all along. In all reality, it wasn't really Xavier behind all of this. Onslaught just used Xavier as a petri dish of sorts. It was Xavier and Magneto's psyches that formed this crazy psionic being. In the end, it took all of Marvel's heroes to put an end to Onslaught. I love the Onslaught saga. Cerebro, can you pull up the action figure?
Onslaught. Released in 2016. Retail price, none. Aftermarket price, high $151.50. Low $134.28. Accessories, none.
As you can see here, there is no retail price because he is a BAF, a Build-A-Figure. So the only way to get him was to buy the entire wave with all the pieces he had. The aftermarket price is the only price we have on him, being the BAF that he is. The high was $151.50 and the low was at $134.28. I think now you can probably get him for around $80. He had no accessories because he's a Build-A-Figure. If you were to build this particular version of Onslaught, you'd have to get the Captain America wave, which was the Red Skull Onslaught Build-A-Figure wave. And then you'd have to get the Kitty Pryde figure that came with the Onslaught original head. Like I had mentioned in the Kitty Pryde video, I had noticed that she came with that head, and I was actually really confused as to why she came with what looked like a Magneto head, and then I later realized, oh no, that's not Magneto, that's Onslaught. I wasn't currently reading comic books at the time, so I wasn't familiar with the storyline where Red Skull had gotten a piece of Xavier's brain and then turned himself into Onslaught. To be honest with you, I still don't really care about that version, so it was a no-brainer for me to get those pieces and then just plug on the Kitty Pryde BAF piece. This action figure is a beautiful action figure in my opinion. I think the only way that they could top this is if they made a larger version that's pinless. But overall, this is the ideal Onslaught in my eyes. Currently, he is the centerpiece of an Onslaught display where he is facing off against the X-Men from the time. Captured Nate Gray there. At his feet, we have Xavier's Cerebro helmet. And in his left hand, he is holding Juggernaut's busted helmet. This is an awesome display, perhaps one of my favorites currently. All of the X-Men facing off against their mentor. Man, that's an awesome display. Alright, let's get into his powers and abilities.
Powers and abilities. Telepathy, telekinesis, energy projection, sensing mutants, manipulating magnetic fields, mind control, flight, mental manipulation, possession, astral projection.
This guy is OP as they come. This is one of Marvel's most powerful villains to date, hence why Red Skull wanted a piece of Xavier's brain to give himself that kind of power. I think if you didn't read the storyline, it's really easy to get confused and think that this is just Xavier freaking out and manifesting some sort of extra psionic abilities, but it really wasn't. It was a completely separate entity that drew from the powers of Magneto and Xavier. Being a conglomeration of the two of them, you can see the telepathy coming from Xavier and then the manipulating magnetic fields from Magneto. Having all these different powers and abilities made him one of the most formidable enemies the X-Men and the other Marvel heroes ever had to face. The drive for Xavier and Magneto at any given point wanting mutants to live in a world that hates and fears them, mostly on Magneto's side wanting the mutants to be superior. It wasn't Onslaught's goal to just destroy the world. He wanted mutant superiority. One of his powers being sensing mutants allowed him to track down mutants that would help his cause. So he found a bunch of mutants to become his heralds, similar to the heralds of Galactus or the Horsemen of Apocalypse. He would track down mutants that he deemed superior and recruit them to his cause. It was his goal to kill off the humans and have a mutant-dominated planet. At one point in the storyline, after absorbing the powers of Xavier and Nate Gray and Franklin Richards, Onslaught ends up separating himself from Xavier, no longer needs him, and becomes this evolved form. Toy Biz made an evolved form Onslaught Build-A-Figure back in the day, which we'll cut to real quick here. This is a much uglier design in my opinion, but this is the more powered up version of him. It's cool to have, but I actually prefer the original Onslaught look to the evolved version. If you guys want, I will do a completely separate video on the evolved version action figure. Let me know if that's something you guys want to see in the comments, and we'll revisit that down the road. Alright Cerebro, please pull up the power grid.
Accessing power grid. Analyzing subject.
If you guys would like to see power grid information for yourself, I recommend the Marvel metal cards, and if you can't get access to those, you can always go to marvel.fandom.com where they have a similar power grid, slightly different, but if you feel so inclined, go check that out. Alright, let's start with strength. He is at a 7. Omnipotent. He is at the top. This guy is as strong as they come, and in fact the only one who could subdue him was the Incredible Hulk. There is no one that can match this guy's strength other than people with omnipotent strength, and I will say they are far and few between in the Marvel Universe. So he is a dangerous, strong being. On to intelligence. He is at a 6. Mutant mental power. He's just under omniscient. Omniscient, I'm assuming, would be like a god, which this guy almost is. An evil god, but he is very intelligent. Being born of Xavier and Magneto, it makes sense that this guy is super smart. Let's go on to speed. He's at a 5. Mutant speed. Above a world-class sprinter, just below light speed. Super fast. This guy can move around like nobody's business, and for being as big as he is, that's pretty impressive. Alright, let's go on to fighting ability. He's at a 4, which is a world heavyweight champ. Below mutant fighting ability, he's not a Terminator and he is not invincible. And that makes sense. Why would he need to be? He can just look at you and shut you down if he wanted with his mental powers. Absolutely powerful. Does not need to learn how to fight in any sort of strategic way, but he is still formidable in his fighting abilities. On to stamina. Again, he is at a 7. Perpetual motion. He can go and go and go and not get tired. He can take all the hits you can give to him, and he's just going to keep going. This guy has incredibly impressive stamina. You do not want to be in a fight with this guy, even with your whole team. Halfway through the fight, most of you guys are going to slow down, and he's just going to keep going. Let's move on to agility. At a 3, circus acrobat. He can be doing flips, flying around, bobbing and weaving. For being his size, being at a 3 is super impressive. Being as agile as he is able to get out of the way of attacks. Not that he needs to, because he's basically impervious. For being such a big guy, being that agile, very impressive. Let's move on to energy projection. His energy blast is at a 6. Fusion. Solar. He's just one below a supernova. Very impressive. A blast from this guy can take almost anyone out. Onslaught is basically a one-man army. Forget about your tanks, your missiles, your grenades. Blast from Onslaught is like taking a blast from a cosmic being. He is devastating. So looking at his stats overall, he is way above average. He is one of the most powerful villains anyone in the Marvel Universe has ever faced, and if you're going to have any chance of beating him, you're going to need more than the X-Men to do it. Like I said, Onslaught is one of my favorite villains in the X-Men comics. Absolutely love everything about him. the design, where he came from, what happened, the character design, powers, how he manifested, all of it. Absolutely love Onslaught, and I absolutely love this action figure. He's nearly a decade old, and I feel like that this action figure absolutely still holds up. If we got an updated version, you better believe I'm going to get it, but I'm never going to retire this one. I will have him in another display, even if I get an updated version. Okay, Cerebro, anything for the people before we go?
Be sure to check out X-Men 97 Reactions with Talent. Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right, folks. As this video is coming out, we are still releasing X-Men 97 Season 1 videos. Go check those reactions out if you haven't seen them yet. It's a whole lot of fun, and please do subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'm Talent, reminding you, keep collecting, and until next time, Excelsior!